I'm here to tell you a story of my good friend Ivan. Ivan was 15 years old. He was a piano prodigy. He was playing Vivaldi and Beethoven before he could even talk. I met Ivan via business transportation about a year ago. He was buying my old piano. I should never have sold him the piano. I knew that what it was capable of. It was a Steinway grand piano. I had it locked away in a storage unit for years. Ivan saw me in my storage unit one day. He worked there as a temp. He would clean the junk out of old abandoned units, and he saw the shape of the piano under a thick canvas cover. He inquired about it, and I jumped at the chance to get rid of it, but not considering the consequences. I sold it to him for $1,000. He was quite surprised on how little I wanted. He had offered 10, but I just wanted it gone. I told him that it had been in the unit for 10 years, but I knew it would be in perfect tune. It never loses its tune. Ivan paid for it to be hauled over to the unit, out of the unit, and brought to his home. It was gone within an hour. He was so excited. As he got into his car to head home, I tried to issue a warning, but he didn't hear me. Ivan never was a good listener in the literal aspect. He could, however, hear a song once and then be able to play it in the exact key within 15 minutes. Ivan arrived at his home, and the piano was already in his music room. It was pitch black. He switched on the lights and they flickered eerily. The shadows of the fan blades crawled across the ceiling. The piano was sitting in the middle of the floor, open and ready to play. Ivan wasted no time. He went to the piano and sat down on the bench. What happened next should have been enough to scare Ivan off, but he was determined to play. He pumped on the sustain pedal a few times to get the feel of it, and he heard a peculiar noise. It sounded like a heartbeat. He pumped on it a few more times. Boom, 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 boom. The entire house was shaking. Beads of cold sweat rolled down Ivan's forehead. Ivan was rather a venturous individual, though, perhaps more than he should have been. He reached up and positioned his hands on the first chord of his favorite song, Requiem of a Dream. In his left hand was G, B, B, D, G. In his right hand was the G octave. Ivan lifted his hand and slammed them back down on the keys. There was a blood-curdling scream. Ivan slammed his keys over his ears and fell off the bench. The piano stood silent. The last of the scream faded away. As I said, Ivan was more adventurous than most, so he got back on the bench. He lightly tapped the D and brought his hands up near the head again, but he heard a dulcet tone of the intent note this time. Ivan, feeling more comfortable, darted into the melody Moonlight Sonata, another personal favorite of his. All was going well, but when he tried to stand up, he couldn't move at all. His hands and feet started moving on their own, playing Moonlight Sonata, but all wrong. His right hand was in the key of D, his left hand in the key of D. It sounded harsh, metallic. He also played much faster, much louder. This went on for the rest of the evening. Each time louder and faster, scratches began to show on the keys he was using. He was nearly melting the ivory. I believe it was around 3 a.m. when I even finally did stop. He tore his hands away from the piano and crawled over to the corner of the room. He looked at his hands. His fingers were mangled and broken, a big bloody mess. He glanced back at the piano, and blood was seeping up from between the keys. The flow increased. The floor was now covered in blood. The scream started again. Ivan inched his way over to the door and escaped the room. He got downstairs and entered his living room. The details are a little fuzzy from this point on, but Ivan hung himself that morning. This is the note he left behind. She's watching, always watching. Had to end it. All is better. The bag. I think Ivan left a string of letters as instructions. I think it was notes to a song. I burned the house with the piano in it. I was too afraid to play the song. I ended it all that night. I spent my days now sitting in the storage unit just looking at where the old piano used to be. I'm so sorry, Ivan.